So it is my pleasure today to introduce Rotarian Lin Kelly. Lin is, and her husband Jim reside in Ocean Isle Beach, North Carolina. So welcome, Lin. She is a Paul Harris Society member and a major donor. So she also is appreciative of your presence here today. Take care of those precious DDF funds we receive. Lin has been with DACdb for 6 years. And she has been involved in the creation of the grants module that we're going to hear about today that you're using for district grants. Lin and her team are also responsible for day-to-day inquiries that are delivered via email, phone, or ticket. You should know that Lin and her team are always available to set up one-on-one trainings when necessary to help clubs understand DACdb. Lin, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us. Also on is Michael Soden, and he is going to be watching the chat in case you have any questions during our demo. So I am going to share my screen as soon as Leanne lets me.
You got it.
Okay, here we go. Let's see here.
While Lynn's pulling up her screen, someone still is not muted. So if you all would take another look and make sure that you're muted, I would appreciate it.
I think that's Ben Klein.
Okay, Ben, you've been called out.
All right. Does everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. When you first log into
Len, we're seeing Zoom. We're not seeing the actual DACdb.
Really? Thank you. Let's try this again. How's that?
Now we're in DACdb. Yes, very good.
All right, great. Thanks, Michael. When you first log into DACdb, you land on your home page, and this could look different to each of you depending what club you're in based on the stories you have. But now when we want to go to the grants, you are going to go to your My Club tab. Now, you're going to go to your grants icon, and I want you to notice I'm in here in the Eugene Metropolitan Club, and I am impersonating today Daniel Reese, but there is no grants icon here. So if you get to this page and you do not see your grants icon, I want you to click this little wheel up on the top right of the page. And then when you, well, that's interesting. Here we go. You're going to drag the grants up to the top, the yellow section here, and then you're going to click on Set My Configuration. And now the grants icon is there. So I'm going to click the grants icon on. And since June 1st is still in this Rotary year, notice it's still says 22-23. You're going to come in and change your org year. So I'm going to click the button. I'm going to change it to next year and click change. You can also set it as your working year. If you're done with everything you've been working in 22-23, you can click this little button here and it'll stay on the current year. And now on the left-hand menu, you're going to click on Club Grants View. When you do click on Club Grants View, you are probably not going to see anything here. I have an approved grant that I created earlier. So when we get to demonstrating the final report, we're going to go to this one. But you will see the big orange button on the top right to create a grant request. So I'm going to click the button. And the first thing it's going to ask you is for your project name. And so you can keep this, you know, rather on the shorter side. So I'm just going to put in and then you're going to put your city and state where the project is going to take place. And the country is the US. And then your complete date, when you expect it to be completed. And then you can pick, we have some areas of focus here that you can select. And then a short description here. Once you've done that, you're going to go to the next tab. Notice there's just 4 tabs up on the top. If you are working the project with another club, this is where you would add the other club, but we're just going to work with one club today. Then you put your contacts, the contacts in the club if somebody else is helping you with the information. And then the 4th tab is the application tab. And this is where you're going to enter your start date. I'm just going to go back to and normally this, and I'm sure Kathy will explain this information later, but usually this is the treasurer of the club. And then maybe your club address. And here is where you can elaborate a little more on the project, because this is what your team is going to look at when they're determining whether this project is going to receive any grant funds. So this can be a longer description of your project. They ask a few questions here. What humanitarian efforts? So read the question carefully and answer accordingly. I'm just going to put some text in here. And how are your Rotarians going to be involved? And how are you going to publicize this? And then there are some items you do have to fill out here. If there is another organization, Kathy has some things in red here. Pay attention where there's red information. I'm just going to put NA here. And then there's a few things that you have to agree to. So you just check yes. And let's see, it looks like there's the member name. I guess you have to put in your person's name in here. I'm just going to put some text and then agree there. Now, once you've done that, then you're going to save your grant. Now that I've saved the grant, you can see that the screen has changed. First, on the top is a status bar. So every time you come into your grant, you're going to know exactly where you are. So if somebody's asked you, have you submitted the grant for signature for your club? If this isn't checked, you'll know that nobody from your club has signed it yet. If you thought that you submitted it for district approval, you can look here at step 3. And if that's filled in, then yes, you have submitted it. If it's not, then you have to come up here and click the button to submit the grant. So now you're finished, you've looked at it, you're sure that you want to submit it. Before you do that, you're going to put your budget in. So I'm going to click on the budget. And now we're going to add the income items. So you are going to request DDF. So I'm going to put DDF request here. And I'm going to say this is $500. And it's the DDF requested. And I'm going to check that.
Lynn, excuse me, this is Leanne. I'm going to interrupt. We have, we've encouraged a lot of people who are interested in becoming their grant writer and learning more about district grants to attend this call. So I would ask all of our presenters, could we, if you're going to use an acronym, would you define what it is, like DDF or
Oh,
MOU?
district designated funds.
Thank you.
So that is the portion that your district is going to provide to you. And all the other funding is funding you're going to supply on your own. So that's what DDF means. So you're going to put that amount in. Then you're going to go back to the income and put your matching amount in. I'm just going to call this club funds. And make sure when you're putting the funding source, you pick the next radio button that says other club funding. So we have our total there. Now remember, this is the budget. So now I'm going to add our estimated expenses. And this is going to be for the purchase of the books. And my total is going to be $1,000. Because that's what I'm hoping with the contribution from the district that I'm going to be allowed to spend. So when you look at your budget summary, it amounts to 0. Now you have everything completed. If there aren't any preliminary documents you want to load here, you can. Maybe you have a budget on an Excel spreadsheet that is very detailed that you want to put there. Maybe you have commitments from other partners that you want to include here.
Lynn, can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Mm-hmm.
I have a question here as you're filling out it. It's come from Marv Kaplan
Mm-hmm.
out of Redmond. And he says, we've been told to make our budget what our grant is. So our event is $9,000, but grant with match is $4,000. How do they show that?
Okay, so if that were the case, let me just change my club funds here, and I can make this part higher. So my club portion is higher, but the portion you're asking from your district is going to be lower. So if you have a larger budget, but you're only going to be limited to so many dollars from your district, the DDF will be lower, if that's what I'm understanding.
Yes,
If I'm
I
understanding.
believe. Yep.
And I don't know if that's the policy for the district.
Lynn, I'll just, if I can pop in, sorry about that. This is Kathy.
Mhm.
And as Marv mentioned, what we have recommended is that folks in our district leave the budget for the purpose of the grant at the club funds and the matching funds, rather than, let's say they have a $5,000 outside grant from whatever, Fred Meyer Foundation or something. Rather than putting that into this proposal, we can ask them to describe it in the grant application box, but so that we'll just be requesting the receipts for the DDF and the club match part of it. So
Okay.
Yeah. That then sort of simplifies the clubs having to put all those receipts for the total grant, which would be much higher.
Okay, so we're going to take that back and we're going to make it even. And so that's what it's going to be.
Sorry about
All
that.
right, that's good. All right, so as I said, you can put preliminary documents here if you want to attach them. Notice here is the grant application. So the minute you saved it, it saves your grant application as an HTML. And now you are ready to sign the grant and submit it to the district. So there will be a button up on the top here. This says Club Collect Grant Signatures. I'm going to click that button on. A box pops up. Hopefully you can see the pop-up here. It's asking me to confirm that I'm starting the signature process. You're going to say, okay. And now the notice my status bar. Since there's only one signature required, It has been submitted to the district. Oops, submitted for signatures. I apologize, submitted for the signatures. Let me go back to the Club Grants view. And now you can see up here, remember that approved grant I talked about? See how it's going to separate the grants in your Club Grants view? But we're interested in this one. So I'm going to go back in here. So I'm guessing, oh, something changed since yesterday. So it looks like, and I am in here as Daniel. Right now, this should say submitted grant for district approval.
Lynn,
Yes.
this is how we have it set so that only the club president can submit the grant for approval.
Oh, okay, that's why. All right, so who is the president for this club? Let's see. The current club president you're talking about. Hitch, okay.
Be the 23-24.
President, okay. Oh, because he, I thought that for sure this would be okay though, because he was in here. Let me just look for the grants again. Let me look for the signatures. They're all over here. Save.
That was the wrong arguer.
Oh, thank you. Okay, let me look again now. I thought I had him in here as the Well, I'm thinking because I'm trying to force him to be the president, and he's the president-elect, it's not working for him. So I'm just going to be myself for a minute.
You're right, Lynn. Dan Reese is a past president. I think it's Brian Reed who as.
Oh, I have the wrong person. Thank you.
Yeah. So Brian.
All righty.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me just go in here. I'm just going to submit it so that we can move on here. Club Grants view. Okay. Change year. All righty. Okay. Here we go. Now we go. All right. So we started the grant signature process. Now you're going to see the button that says sign grant application. You'll click that button, and then the button will now say submit grant for district approval. When I click that button, now you're going to see two additional tabs. One is an activity log, so you can tell who did what when. And when the emails are turned on, you will see the emails and everybody the emails went to. And then here's the signature log. So you will see the person who signed it, the person who started the club process, the person who submitted it to the district for approval. Now I'm going to be the correct person in here, hopefully. And you told me Reed, Brian Reed, right? Is the president?
Right. President. Yes. President-elect and will be president in 23-24.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't expect any publicity today. This is exciting.
Okay, so now that I'm Brian, I'm going to pull my grants up here again. So you'll get a little tutorial, a second tutorial here, how to add those little icons, set my configuration. I'm going to go back here now and change my year. And if you click this, as I said, it'll keep that working year there for you. And now Club Grants view. And notice here it is waiting for district approval. So now your grants are finished, you've completed everything, and now you're ready to submit your final report and submit your expenses and receipts. So here's the approved grant that we have. So we're going to go to that grant, and note your grant has to be approved before you're going to see the final report. So I'm going to click this on, and notice now you see this expenses tab, and you also see the final report tab. So first I'm going to submit the expenses because that is what they're going to be looking for from the district. And first I'm going to add a receipt. And this is going to be for the group that is, we're in a different grant now. So we made duffel bags that were personalized for the Rotary Cottage at the Boys and Girls Home. So I'm going to put the name of the vendor here. And the invoice number. And let's see my amount. I think it was, I'm just going to put 1,000. I think it's 1,080. And now I'm going to add my receipt. Now, after you add your receipt, there's one more step. You're going to click the pencil and you're going to add a copy of that receipt. By doing that here saves you some time because now you do not have to go back to the Documents tab to add your copies of your receipt. So I'm going to click Choose the File. I'm going to go to Grants. Let's see if I can find my invoice. Here's my invoice. And I'm going to save it. So now here's my information. You can see I've saved my document because now this is a hyperlink to open it. So that's 2 steps. First, you add the receipt, and after the receipt is saved, you click the pencil and actually upload the document. Now, I am going to add my expense payment, which is a copy of the check that I used to pay for that. So I'm going to click Add Payment. And again, I'm going to put the same vendor. And then my check number. And I'm going to put my cursor in here to find the invoice that I posted. So this makes it easy for your district team to match your expenses with your receipts. So as soon as you start putting the receipts in, you're going to see them pop up here when you're in the expense portion. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to click Add. And now I am going to go back to the pencil. And now I'm going to upload, choose my file, upload my check. And now I'm going to click Save. And now here you can see that my check is there. My check number is here. My invoice number is here. My vendor who I paid my check to. Everything looks good. Obviously, many of you are going to have more receipts and more checks, and maybe it's going to be a copy of a bank statement where you submitted your check through a bank statement, whatever you have to submit here. But it's important, put your receipts here. When I go to my documents now, you're going to see your expenses, and you will see the different expenses and receipts that you've put here. So you do not have to add them again because your district team is going to come to this expense tab to look at everything. So now you're ready to complete your final report. And there's a few things that are automatically populated. So anywhere you see text appearing, You don't have to put anything in there. So what did our team do? We packed the duffel bags and we put in personal items for the residents of the Rotary Cottage. And then if you did have people that assisted you, you can put the information in to what they did. You don't have to touch any of this because this will pull automated information in. And note that whatever's in red, read that. So these are additional instructions your district has added. And now what you're going to do is click Save the Final Report. It's going to tell you that a copy has been saved. You're going to say, okay. I always like to go back to my final report to make sure all my little numbers are there. And then I also like to go to the documents and make sure my final report was saved. And the final report saves as a PDF. So if you haven't submitted the final report to the district yet, and you do have to make changes to it before you start the signature process, you can go ahead and change the final report, save it again, and then it'll move that first final report into the backup section right here, and it'll put the most recent final report under your documents. But now I am ready to collect my final signatures and submit our final report to the district. So I'm going to click the button. It says to please confirm that I filled out the final report, and we have, and we've added all the images, etc. I'm going to say okay. Now the club's going to sign the final report. Here are the signatures from when the grant was first submitted for approval. So I'm going to click sign. And now it's asking you, did you complete the final report? Did you add all your documents and complete and upload it? Has your budget been updated with actuals? If you're ready to submit to the district, you'll click this on. If you weren't ready to submit it, you would just ask that it go back to the report, do what you needed to do on it, and then you can submit it. Now you can see on the status bar, we're up to line 6 here. We've submitted it for the district. Now you're ready for the district to review it and approve it. So let's stop there and let's open it up for any questions we might have.
And do you want me to read them, or do you want just
Sure.
to open it up?
Why don't we start
Okay.
with those?
Okay, so the first one we have is when you have receipts, and this is from Suzanne Johansson. When we have receipts for all of your doing, how do you submit a receipt for a small amount? This is an ongoing issue for all of our gift of literacy grant. We buy books in bulk and the numbers don't ever magically equal the amount on the DDF.
Well, I'm going to let Kathy answer that to see how she'd like that submitted.
Hey, excuse me. Thank you. I am quickly scrolling back to that question. Or, Michael, so the question was when the receipts don't exactly match
Right.
the payments. So, and sorry, who was the person who submitted that?
I hopefully pronounced it right. Suzanne Johansson.
Suzanne. Thanks, Suzanne. Okay. So yeah, this is a good question. A lot of you do purchase smaller ticket items and have a lot of receipts to upload. So to Suzanne and to the others who have this question, you know, it is, if let's say you have 5 receipts for, you know, a book purchase or something like that, and those 5 receipts add up to, you know, $100. It's okay to copy those receipts into one PDF, one file, And we really appreciate them all to be facing the same direction and all that, so that it's easy for us to go through and say, okay, I see 5 receipts, you know, $20 each, the total is 100. And then when I go down to the payment section, I find your check or your Visa payment or however you paid for it, that matches the sum total of those 5 receipts. If I ask, or if I'm addressing your question correctly, you know, that is okay to do that. The big thing that we ask is that you really, kind of like Lynn said, go back and look after you make your copy of your receipts, go back and take a look at it and make sure you can read it. And we really need the receipts to be uploaded as PDF files. So if you use your phone to take a photo of it, they come up as JPEGs, and then we have a really hard time reading the tiny, tiny fine print. So that would be my comment. That's probably a JPEG file right there, and it comes out pretty much so small that we really can't read it.
Well, I'm wondering, this is Cindy. I don't think we've really answered Suzanne's question. Suzanne, would you like to?
Yeah, thank you, Cindy. The question is so the district has asked us to only submit receipts for the amount that equals the grant, but when the project itself is much bigger, as in our Gift of Literacy program, where we're spending a lot more than just the amount of the district grant, we don't have receipts that exactly match the amount of the district grant.
Okay.
So you're saying that we should only write our grants for the amount of the DDF that we're requesting, but when the project itself is so much bigger, the receipts, I don't know how to get the receipts to match what you want, because you said you don't want the rest of the information, but.
Sure. No, I understand your question now. And so, you know, in that case, as long as you've explained in your project, in the application section, the more expanded version, if you've explained that you've got an additional X $1,000 or whatever from some other organization, thank you, Lynn. Yeah, in your project definition, you know, you can send us a message or remind us or whatever that, you know, okay, my last receipt ends up being $500 more or whatever it is than the total of the grant. But so we can absolutely, you know, as long as you clarify for us, that's what we're doing. This is a much bigger grant. Therefore, you know, I've got these additional receipts so that you have your total. Let's say your total grant for the district is 2,000 from the club and 2,000 DDF matching funds. So that you end up with 4,500 in receipts because, as you said, you had a larger book purchase or whatever it was. That's okay. Just shoot us a quick note or make sure, help us, remind us, or we can go back and look at that. So sorry, I mean, you know, that is going to be okay, you know, with the understanding that that additional leftover amount is going to be covered by outside grant funding or other club funding or whatever it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Alrighty then, we have from Forest Hill, we partnered with another 501c3 and they cannot give us an invoice. They provided 100% of the materials for the project and we're the only other party for the project. Our club did not spend any money outside of our partner organization. This became a problem because the items we partnered with them on had a standard estimated cost, but no real invoice. How does the district handle that situation?
Hal, I'm wondering if you want to take that one.
I don't, I mean, why would a partnering organization not have an invoice? I mean, the terms and conditions of Rotary grants require that partnering organizations keep the same records that the clubs keep. So the partnering organization should have invoices and paid checks for those invoices. So I don't understand why a partnering organization would not have an invoice.
Perhaps let's get clarification from the person who asked the question.
Yeah.
Forrest,
Either that,
Yeah.
Cindy, or
Am
the
I
other
here?
thing we can do, if they want to contact me offline, we can talk it offline so we don't spend too much time on that one.
Am I unmuted here?
yes, you are.
Okay. The organization was Sleep in Heavenly Peace. They buy a lot of materials at wholesale or below, and then they build the beds, and we wanted to partner with them to build so many beds in our area. So I guess it sounds like what you're saying is we have to get an invoice from Sleep in Heavenly Peace in order to justify the expense of the bed build. Is that what I'm hearing? Like if they went to Cumberland Lumber or
Yes.
Copeland Lumber.
Yes.
Okay. That answers the question. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, no, yeah. Have them just send you the receipt that they, for the money that they spent.
Very good.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So Bruce M, I think we've kind of already answered this, but is it true that we should only spend the funds prior to approval? Okay, let's start this one again. Is it true that we shouldn't spend any money prior to approval, even club funds?
That is correct. So any district grant, so the grant approval process is a two-step process. And the first step is actually the Rotary Foundation approving the block of all of the proposals that we have. And that often takes, at least a month, sometimes more, depending on how quickly we get it in. They have to approve the first step, and then the district, that would be Hal and me and whatever other team members are working on these, have to approve it at the district level. So that is absolutely correct. You shouldn't be making any expenditures related to the grant until you've gotten the grant approved. And that's when it actually moves in DACdb into the grant approval column, and you get a message saying your grant is approved, go ahead and start spending.
Okay. Quick question here. Is it possible to have a defined pop-up specifically, and Lynn, this is probably more for us, a defined pop-up specifically for District 5110 detailing district rules for district grants? I pretty much responded that typically the way I do it in my district is we put it under the grant overview. And that's usually where it goes. I'm not so certain.
And I have it on the screen right now.
Yep. So this is where I would put the rules in.
Yep. And they already have the rules in here for 23, 24, it looks like.
Yep.
And hyperlinks.
Yep.
2 items you're going to need.
Thank you, Hal Kibbe.
Yeah. Okay, another one from Mark Kaplan. It looks like Leanne may have already responded to it, but can you use the grants checking account showing a debit for the expense? If we copy the statement and submit it with that, with all the debits for the grants, is that okay? Since no checks were cut, or that no visual.
They're
checks were cut.
electronic.
They're electronic checks. And Leanne came back and said on your recording there will be. Oh, sorry.
That's something else.
Yes, sorry. So I'm assuming that would be okay. That's up to the committee, but I would think that would be fine.
Yeah, and I'll chime in again too. This is Kathy. That would be fine. And what, again, to Marv and others who are in this, have this same question. If your bank statement, sometimes the bank statement doesn't specify what the expense exactly is or who the recipient is, although typically the recipient is there. But anyway, just make sure the bank statement is clear. And if it isn't clear, you can let us know. Separately, send us a message and say, whatever debit number XYZ on, August 31st covered this particular expense for that number of dollars. So that's totally okay. The other thing I want to add in this is that it is a legitimate grant expense to get checks for your club district grants bank account. So absolutely, the question is, yes, you can use your debit card, or you can also order checks on your district grants bank account so that you have them if you need them. And you can include that as a grant expense.
Okay, thank you. Keith Nelson, our 22-23 grant funds will not be expended until September 23 college scholarships. Our due date for 23-24 DDF grant is June 1st. Is there a problem with not having 22-23 grant complete before we submit for 23-24 grant application?
Okay, Keith, thanks for that question. You can submit, and actually, Keith, you're not alone. There are several clubs that have scholarship programs for which the funds are not dispersed until August or September, of the following year. So you can absolutely submit your new proposal. Well, you should submit your new proposal by the June 1 deadline. But the new proposal won't be approved until your previous year's grant is closed out. So it will sit there. We will review it. We'll be all ready to go. We'll ask you questions. And then we'll let you know, great, this is ready to go as soon as your final report is in for the previous year's scholarship grant. We'll approve this and disperse the new funds for this new grant.
Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, Paula Hancock, is an MOU required for the entity that is helping to pay the total invoice?
Paula, maybe you could, I'm not sure I understand the question, or if Hal understands it, he can chime in, or maybe just kind of clarify the entity. I'm not sure what you mean by the entity that's helping to pay the total invoice.
We were just discussing where you had an entity that it was like a bigger grant than what we were applying for. We got approval, for our piece and the district matching. But then if we had another entity that was just helping fund it, like you were describing, where you said, okay, there's a total invoice and it's larger than what we had approved, and we had to use that as our documentation. Is an MOU required for that entity that is paying that total invoice or part of that, the funding?
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Hal, I think I'm gonna toss that one into your court.
I don't, as long as that entity is not covering part of the $4,000 or $5,000 in this year's grant, as long as it's not covering part of that $5,000, no, you don't need a cooperating organization MOU. However, if that cooperating organization if that cooperating organization is, say the grant is $5,000 and you've paid $2,000 of it, and the other entity is paying $3,000 of it, then yes, you do need a cooperating organization MOU.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that's a very fine point on it. I've got it now.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay. So we have looks like one last question here, which is just a verification on what Marv asked earlier. It says to make sure your debit card is only for the grant account.
That's right. That way you would get the bank statement that is just from your grant account, and you'd be able to upload that bank statement, and it wouldn't have other club operating expense debits on the grant account. So that is right.
Okay, so those are our questions.
And I have one last one that was sent directly to me that I'll put out for the group. It says, can signatures be actual signatures that are scanned and uploaded? Many of the Rotarians, or certainly the person who has to sign it, this year's incoming president, does not have computer. So have we a solution how to address that?
Sure, Leanne, and to the person asking that question, that does happen. And especially on multi-club grants, sometimes folks need help getting all the president's signatures on there. And the grant committee members, and at this point, I'd say Hal and I can help you. I have frequently done that. Whoever the main person is who's drafting the proposal, if you'll just contact Hal or me, we can help you get those president's signatures on there, even if they're not, if they don't have a computer or they're not really into this kind of technology. essentially we'll work on the side with them, getting their approval through an email or a phone call, and then we can go ahead and add their signature in there for you. Because we do ultimately want it in the electronic proposal, but we can absolutely work with you to make that happen.
Okay, just a couple more that just they keep flying in here. Again, another follow-up with Marv is he's asking if an organization is not paying anything, just helping with distribution, is an MOU needed?
Hal, I think I'll leave that one to you too.
I would say yes, because they're helping with the project. I mean, if cooperating organizations are helping us complete the project, then they are helping with the project. I mean, it can be pretty simple, MOU, but I would say yes. If they're helping with the project, then yes, you need a cooperating organization MOU in most cases.
Okay, again, another follow-up from Marv. I'm not sure I understand this question. Is our club has a president's computer, so assume it's a president personal computer that always goes with the new president. Same for the treasurer. Not quite certain I understand the question.
If I may, Leanne, we have a president's computer that the club has bought only to be used by the president. So when the president leaves, he gives it to the president-elect.
Okay, I think maybe I understand the question, and that doesn't matter. The computer itself, it's the login. And that question does arise. We want the new president. So let's say in my own club, our current president is Steve Hitch, but our new president is Brian Reed, and Brian's the one. So essentially the person needs to log into DACdb, so their name is what shows up. Doesn't matter what device they're using.
Correct. So here's a acronym issue, or we'll like to say Rotary alphabet. What is an MOU?
An MOU is a memorandum of understanding. And Lin still has, or on the screen, you'll see the landing page for 23-24 grants. And Lin is showing down there the links to the Club Memorandum of Understanding and the Cooperating Organization Memorandum of Understanding. And the one, just to clarify, the one that needs to be in your grant proposal is when you have a cooperating organization, right? So you're partnering with, let's say, St. Vincent de Paul in Eugene or something. And so I would want to have the contact at St. Vincent de Paul sign the cooperating organization MOU, and that's what I would upload into the grant. So yeah, MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, and apologies for all the acronyms.
Okay, thank you. And I hope we just the one last question, although they keep kind of popping in here. Eric, you had a comment that you said you want to talk about the final report.
Yeah, I just wanted to express that there's a lot of different ways funding goes on, payments are made, money changes hands, et cetera, and you can't come up with all of those in a session like this. But when you're putting together your information for the final report, you need to tell the story of where the funding came from, where it went, what was done with it, who did what, so that anybody can pick that information up and understand what happened with the money. It's all about that. So if you can give it to your next door neighbor and say, can you read this and understand how we spent our money and what we got for it, then that would meet the test. And so anytime things don't match quite right or whatever, explain that. It's just a matter of taking a little bit of extra time and telling the story so that it makes sense to the reviewers. Because the reviewers, they have no insight other than what you put on that report. So that would be my comment.
No,
Well said, Eric.
Very good point. I even have my grants chair refuses to accept the final report if it's not in the past tense. So in other words, we ought to populate over the stuff, but she requires them to go in and make sure we did this, not we're going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So yes.
Good point there as well.
And thanks, Eric, for that helpful insight.
Well, Lynn and Michael, thank you very much. I think we'll draw this section of the morning's program to a close. Thank you for all the interaction and the
Welcome.
great questions to everybody. We really appreciated it.